A conspiracy theory about a dead sex criminal now threatens to do it a violent insurrection, 34 felony convictions, calling U.S. soldiers, quote, losers and suckers, and a litany of broken promises from the economy to foreign policy could not drive a wedge of fury and betrayal between the MAGA political movement and its dear leader, Donald Trump. Donald Trump so far has failed to tamp down the rage from his own supporters after Attorney General Pam Bondi put out a memo rejecting conspiracy theories about Jeffrey Epstein, fueled largely by Bondi's closest colleagues, the director and deputy director of the FBI, facing backlash from the most devoted members of Trump's base and a nasty public feud between his hand-picked deputy FBI director and his hand-picked attorney general. Trump turned to a familiar tactic: project and inexplicably and without evidence find some Democrats to blame. In a post, Trump claimed that the Epstein Files were written by Democrats. Again, there's no evidence that that's true. And it's worth pointing out, Epstein died in 2019 when Donald Trump was president. Trump also defended his attorney general, Pam Bondi, from attacks, adding this, quote, we're on one team, MAGA, and I don't like what's happening, end quote. But many of Trump's allies and supporters aren't buying that. Take a listen to MAGA influencer Benny Johnson.
By admitting that the Epstein Files are real and have been written and that you've read them and you don't like their contents and they were written by your enemies, doesn't make the most compelling case as far as I'm concerned. Holy moly.
Holy moly's right. And Megyn Kelly goes even farther than that. She's suggesting that there was a possibility that, quote, there is a scandal that's being covered up and it's at Trump's direction. Wow. Holy moly again. But perhaps nothing sums up the rage that members of the MAGA base feel right now than this moment. It took place at the Turning Point Conference on Friday.
How many of you are satisfied? You can clap. Satisfied with the results of the Epstein investigation? Clap. Okay, I told you to clap. You guys aren't listening. I'm not going to grade you on a curve. So I was going to get to that. How many of you are not satisfied with the results of the investigation? It looks like it's going to be, and now this is like the who's going to be off the island first, right? This is who's going to be voted off the island first.
Who is going to be voted off the island first? Inquiring minds want to know. Will it be Dan Bongino? He said this about the Epstein Files 2 years ago.
That Jeffrey Epstein story is a big deal. Please do not let that story go.
Okay, we won't. Or will it be Pam Bondi, who demanded the release of the files? Watch.
First of all, it should have come out a long time ago. Professor Dershowitz wanted it out. And by the way, he is one of the best attorneys in this country. I know him. I know his wife. That's a great family, and they've been dragged through hell on this. I want to know why AG Garland and the Justice Department are so quiet on this tonight. You know, they're out there labeling parents domestic terrorists, yet they're saying nothing about this. And these documents were so slow to come out.
We agree, Pam Bondi. Or what about Kash Patel, who said that the release of the Epstein files should be a day one priority for the second Trump presidency?
Who has Jeffrey Epstein's
Black Book?
Black Book?
FBI.
But who? That is, I mean, there's...
Oh, that's under direct control of the director of the FBI. And to me, that's a thing I think President Trump should run on. On day one, roll out the Black Book.
It's literally the guy who now has that job, the director of the FBI. Every single one of those people believed, repeated, promoted, and stoked this conspiracy theory about the Jeffrey Epstein files to Trump's base, which was already primed to distrust and fear and hate and antagonize people in power. David French of the New York Times writes this, quote, the Epstein story mattered so much in MAGA circles because it was a key element in their indictment of America's so-called ruling class. Trump's appeal to the Republican base isn't just rooted in his supporters' extraordinary affection for the man. It is also rooted in their almost indescribably dark view of the American government. Why are they all so keen to burn it all down? Well, if you believe your government is populated by people so depraved that they'd participate in and cover up the systematic sexual abuse of children, then you wouldn't just want them out of office, you'd want them prosecuted and imprisoned and maybe even executed. And you'd want all the power you'd need to make that happen. Perhaps Dan Bongino sums up this worldview best.
This isn't about Epstein or 9/11 or JFK or RFK.
Where is Dan Bongino today? Where in the world is Dan Bongino?
Did he go to work today?
Called around today. We're not sure. I don't think so. It's entirely possible he may have popped up to work. And can I just say, you know, he is not like the greeter at a Home Depot. He is the deputy director of the FBI. He runs the day-to-day operations of the nation's fundamental law enforcement institution. So, in a world in which the bureau is functioning in a normal way, not having your director in place for a period now, and again, we're also uncertain the duration of his absence. We believe from our reporting that he has not been at the FBI headquarters since this blow-up he had with Pam Bondi at the White House last Wednesday. We certainly know that he was not in the office on Friday. So I think we're dealing with a situation here in which Bongino, who might have had some leverage in his face-off against Bondi, appears to have squandered it, getting a sense that Trump himself is a little annoyed with him. Susie Wiles, Trump's chief of staff, who is super close to Bondi, is very annoyed with him, felt that he wasn't a team player. So in terms of the internals on this, in the very narrow, who gets to stay on the island, I think Bondi has in this battle prevailed. But there's another reason why Bondi has an advantage over Bongino in this fight. And it actually, I think, gets to the root of what's going on a deeper level in this story, and that is that Donald Trump is a lame duck president. And all of these people who are criticizing him at the Turning Point Conference, your Benny Johnsons, your Megyn Kellys, your Charlie Kirks, are seeing a world in which Donald Trump is not on the stage. They're seeing beyond him. We've got midterms coming up. The gravitational pull of his election is dissipating. And I think people, this is a transactional world, and they're behaving in a transactional fashion. So I think one of the reasons that why Bondi, in the very narrow sense, prevailed over Bongino is super simple. If you get rid of your attorney general, you've got to get another one confirmed in the Senate. If you get rid of your deputy director of the FBI, you can just replace them.
I mean, I kind of buy that, Glenn, but they're pushing Bove through. I mean, a whistleblower said that he said F the courts. I mean, I don't think Trump is suddenly afraid that he can't get terribly incompetent people through the Republican-led Senate. What is the calculation about the political price they're paying when the story now that even bursts into mainstream media is that MAGA is in full revolt?
Well, one thing though on the Bove thing, Nicolle, is remember he's off-ramping out of the administration. He's changing branches. You know, this is an ejection. He's leaving the Justice Department, right? So, and I think some of the resistance, Bove, by the way, has gotten the nod. Seems to be the nod from Tom Tillis on the committee. There's a sense that Bove might have some trouble on the floor. But I think there is a general sense, particularly with this news last week that Joni Ernst was considering not running, that the Senate is going to become a more challenging environment. And getting to your point about the Epstein Files, you know, we now have a situation in which the Epstein Files for the right would become a confirmation issue for whoever next comes up the pike in terms of DOJ or any other position in the administration. So yes, I think this full revolt by MAGA creates all kinds of complications. And frankly, it's the kind of thing that you see going deeper into the second term of presidents. You see the party splintering and seeking a path forward beyond the current president. And we don't tend to think of that with Trump, and I suspect you're going to start hearing him talk. You're going to start hearing Bannon and others referring to the possibility of him running again in 2028. But I think this is the first cool breeze blowing into the White House that gives people an indication of a battle for the soul of the Trump movement when Trump is off the stage.